cover-up must be. And instead they turn to people who have claimed to have seen for themselves evidence of an alien plot.
With all due respect to their
witnesses say they saw evidence of an elaborate government cover-up. You know, things like alien craft, soldiers picking over it, and aliens. Here's someone who says he saw exactly that. Clifford Stone spent over 20 years in the American Army. For most of that time, he had a desk job, but that's not to say nothing interesting happened to him. Because according to Stone, he was drafted into a top-secret operation. Its purpose, to retrieve downed Soviet satellites.
I was involved in the activities that would recover crashes, debris thereof. Those operations were known as Project Moondust and Operation Blue Fly. Those two projects dealt with two things: the recovery of objects of unknown origin or objects that survived re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere.
Most of the recoveries were routine. But then in 1969, says Stone, his team were asked to investigate something that was very weird indeed.
During that time, we got a call, and they stated that they needed us to put some people together because they had a plane or something that went down not too far from where we were at. When we got there, a person that I would later always call the Colonel, he was there, and he came up and he told me, he says, "Specialist, I need you to go ahead, take your Geiger counter, and I want you to take Geiger counter readings and call them back to us." Well, I was asking, well, what is it? And he went ahead and said, it's some type of Soviet spacecraft that crashed. Says, now, if you get there and you see anything unusual, you need to keep in mind that the Soviets put monkeys, just like we do, in their craft. And as a result of that, if you see any bodies, don't worry about it. It will be monkeys. This was nothing that I had ever seen. I knew it wasn't our craft. I knew it wasn't the Soviet craft. As soon as I got to the place where I could look down, I could see where there was a little kidney-shaped door that opened on the side, and I saw one of the creatures lying out there.
Ever since he left the army, Stone says he's been trying to get the American government to admit to what he says he saw. The Defense Department, though, are still refusing to corroborate his story. Belief. It's a funny thing. But if by some chance Clifford Stone is telling the truth, it raises an obvious question. Why, oh why, would governments hide their encounters with aliens? What have they got to gain? Some people think the answer lies in technology, and we're not talking ringtones. Richard Dolan is a writer who has been investigating government conspiracies for over 10 years.
Whether you believe that the UFOs are ours or alien, there's certainly something that's showing non-fossil fuel related transport. You know, I've spoken to hundreds of people who've said, yeah, this object stopped over my head and took off like a bullet, silently. Well, this is not 100-octane petroleum here. This is something far beyond. So the question is, what is it?
So if alien craft are using some advanced technology we don't know about, what might it be? We were hoping you'd ask. Tom Vallone is one of a small band of scientists working on various theories that could explain how alien craft travel, if indeed they do, intergalactically.
These flying saucers travel thousands of miles in seconds.
Vallone believes aliens can travel light years through space because they've come up with a source of energy that never runs out. Which means it's a lot cheaper and more reliable than the stuff you'd find on your local forecourt. Cool.
we couldn't possibly imagine that UFOs would be burning rocket fuel. You can't even get to Mars today with rocket fuel. So we have to accept the fact that if there are vehicles that can travel interplanetary and perhaps interstellar, they have to use an onboard fuel source that is converting ambient energy or have such a concentrated form of energy that it can survive over light years of travel.
Right. And how might they do that?
The current UFO research points to many different technologies that can be used for free energy and what we call anti-gravity propulsion.
Solving the problem of anti-gravity has flummoxed the greatest minds in physics, but Tom has spent many months locked in his garden shed trying to figure it out. He's even built a little replica UFO.
One UFO contactee reported a disk the size of the UFO that had magnets on the outer edge. And so here we actually have a disk that has magnets on the outer edge that perhaps may be powered by some means that involve permanent magnets or some arrangement of permanent magnets.
According to Vallone, the separate halves of UFOs might contra-rotate to create energy that can be harnessed to power the spaceship. The beauty of this energy is that it comes out of nowhere. You don't need to do anything so last century as actually burn fuel. In fact, it's like you're creating it out of thin air. You can see why Tom is still puzzling over it, can't you? According to the alien conspiracy theory, when the extraterrestrials brought this energy to Earth, a lot of very powerful humans got very annoyed.
My sunshine, my sunshine.
Some people, like journalist Jim Mars, think those in power didn't want such limitless energy to become widely available. The spoil sports.
Please don't take my sunshine away. Think of the ramifications. If a whole new energy technology was to come along that would just overnight replace gas and oil. The oil industry would collapse, the Middle East would collapse, the whole car industry would collapse. It would be a severe upheaval in our society.
In a world economy dominated by oil, Mars says this new kind of new energy would undermine powerful business interests.
See, these folks, they don't care if we know there's aliens out there. What they care about is if we know there's aliens, then we know there's alternative technologies, and this could upset their monopolies.
But Mars goes even further. He says the government and the powers that be started covering all this up even before the 1940s.
We're on the way to Aurora, Texas, where legend has it that a spaceship crashed in 1897. This is the Texas Historical Commission, the state marker that I was telling you about. And it's the oldest known graves here, early 1860s.